Well, hello. This is Ketra and welcome to my channel. Today is part 8 of Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards. Chapter 8 is called Branching Out in All Directions, Perspective in a New Mode. So Betty Edwards writes, one of the first steps in solving problems is to scan the relevant factors and to put things into perspective. This process requires the capacity to see the various parts of a problem in their true relationship and their actual relative importance. Learning to draw in perspective requires the same skill we've been learning to see things as they are out there in the external world. In both instances, we must put aside our prejudgments, our stored and memorized stereotypes, and habits of thinking. We must overcome false interpretations, which are often based on what we think we must, on what we think must be out there, even though we may never have taken a really clear look at what is right in front of our eyes. She goes on to write, for many centuries, artists have sought ways to represent the three-dimensional world on the two-dimensional surface of a drawing or painting. Various cultures have developed different conventions or perspective systems. The term perspective comes from the Latin word prospectus, meaning to look forward. The system most familiar to us, linear perspective, was perfected by European artists during the Renaissance. Linear perspective enabled artists to reproduce visual changes of lines and forms as they appear in the three-dimensional space. Artists of other cultures, Egyptian and Oriental for example, developed a kind of stair-step or tiered perspective in which placement from bottom to top of the format indicated position in space. In this system, which is often used by children, the forms at the very top of the page, regardless of size, are considered to be farthest away. More recently, artists have rebelled against rigid conventions of perspective and invented new systems employing abstract spatial qualities of colors, textures, lines, and shapes. Traditional Renaissance perspective, however, conforms most closely to the way people in our Western culture perceive objects in space. Our perceptions, parallel lines appear to converge at vanishing points on a horizon line, which is the viewer's eye level, and forms appear to become smaller as the distance from the viewer increases. For this reason, realistic drawing depends heavily on these principles. So you'll see here in one of the exercises is to draw kind of a cityscape or town to kind of perspective. And so that's what I'm doing here. I found a kind of a little small outdoor mall, and I feel like I got the perspective pretty good there. So I'm pretty happy with the result of this one, as you'll see in the end. Not too bad of a representation there. Betty also talks about Durer's device, in which he draws a grid, or back in his day he put a screen in front, or a wire grid in front of his model, and then from a viewpoint that shortens this visual image in the model, he could draw from like box to box. And you've probably, maybe you know that sometimes you will get your image and draw a grid on it, and then you can look at each box and draw it that way. And she really, in this part of the book, goes into foreshortened views and talks in length about that proportional problem that some people have when they draw. And then she also talks about sighting, using the edges of the paper to determine the angles, which was neat to read, but I think, like she said in the earlier chapters, as children we kind of already do that with the edges of our paper. But it was kind of neat to note that it's still really important, especially when you're drawing in the perspective. If you're trying to do a perspective drawing or a cityscape, landscape, or something with buildings. I'll just note here what Betty says. She notes in this paragraph that an adult artist uses the edges in a different way, not as actual top, bottom, and sides, but instead as a boundary for the image and as a gauge of horizontal and vertical, a gauge against to which estimates perspective angles and line direction. The technique is to use the R mode to observe angles or line directions in relationship to horizontal and vertical, and then to draw the same angles and line directions on your paper in relation to the edges in which represent the horizontal and vertical. And Betty does have a few exercises on how to look at your like a chair or something, or just a still life image, or if you're um, drawing something like in real time, like sitting outside or drawing trees or whatnot, how to hold your pencil and get those line angles and those perspective kind of horizontal vertical edges. So that's pretty neat. That is something that I did learn in college classes, and I do remember the first time when I saw my teacher doing that. I'm like, what is that she's doing? And it took me probably a good couple of classes to understand how to hold the pencil and look at those perspective lines. But I feel I use that a lot still in my drawings today. So I really encourage you to really kind of study that part of the drawing process for your future drawings. Okay, and so here is the result. Not too bad. So I was pretty impressed. So here is that part in the book where you learn to hold your pencil to look at those perspective, horizontal, vertical ways of drawing. So the next exercise is, see, she suggested finding like the corner of a room, and there's the examples of her students there. So I found this picture that has kind of a corner shot of a room out of a magazine. Um, the reason I didn't do something in my home is, well, if you don't know already, I have 3 Boston Terriers, and so my workspace really is dedicated for drawing. And so it was just easier for me to find a cutout, although I wish I could have just sat and drew it somewhere in my home, but too distracting with the puppies. So I will tell you, this one challenged me. The corner spots here started out well. It wasn't until I got to the lampshade there, I believe I had to erase it and start over because it was off. And I think that's where some of the frustration started with this particular drawing and the following drawings exercises in the book. I do kind of a overview of my thoughts on this chapter. To be honest, took me 2 weeks to get this video out because, like I mentioned later in the video, I almost decided not to finish this series. But the drive in me to want to be better drawing pulled me out of that funk. So as you see here in the sped up part, I was doing fine up until this point, and you'll see later in the video where we have to go back to hands. And I guess it's because I've never really practiced drawing hands and I avoided it, and I'm sure most people do. So anyway, enjoy this part. If you want to speed up, that's great. And after this little clip, you'll see the final rendering of this drawing. So enjoy. Okay, so here it is. Not bad. It took me a really good long while. I had to erase and readjust some of my lines. As simple as it looked, it was pretty tricky, honestly. So that was a really good challenge. And I'm pretty happy with the results on this one. Hello, guys. I'm just going to interrupt the voiceover here and just kind of talk to you a little bit in person. As you saw here, that I did this in fast motion, but I kind of just wanted to get more in depth with you and show you the reference better. So here's my reference picture. I don't know if this helps better because kind of filming these videos with this book is kind of tricky, I think. But I would agree that this isn't a bad rendering of that one. Then the other one that you saw me doing, this one got a little tricky with the lampshade. I kind of had to do that over again a little bit. You probably saw that. And here is the final drawing of it. That corner space exercise. So then I'll be honest, it took about a week and a half because I kind of didn't want to do these videos anymore. I'm not sure why, but I decided I needed to just get on with it and continue with the videos. So we had to do, and I think this is part of the problem, is we had to do the hands again. And I fight with this. So here are my warm-up. There's my thumb, and then I start to draw my finger like it said in the exercise. So then kind of had to do kind of a perspective a little bit with apples or fruit on the table. So here are the fruit, which I did apples, and you'll see that I just kind of drew the table so that you could get the perspective there. And so this last drawing I was dreading because here's the original before I show you mine. See those hands? I was panicking and I was fighting it for a week and a half because I did not want to draw these hands. The face wasn't a problem. And here is, and I'm very proud of this. I give all glory to God because, well, I couldn't have done it without him. So there is my hand. As you can see, I had to break it up in the joints. I erased, I think I redid that hand 3 times. Like that took me 10 minutes to do the face. So you'll know that I'm more comfortable drawing faces than I am hands. This one, oh, I was dreading this too. I think I had to erase this one twice, but I think it turned out all right to get the perspective of this drawing. And this took me about 4 hours to do because I was fighting it, guys. I'm fighting it. I don't know why. I want to get better at drawing, but I will say it's pretty intimidating. Like, it would be easy for me to sit and just flip through the book, right? And not do any of these exercises. Then where would I be? So anyway, guys, this concludes chapter 8. I will start filming this next week. Putting it all together, place and proportion. Leave me comments below if you don't mind the sped up video. It might get tedious for you guys, but I'm not sure if there's any other more clever way to film this video series. I hope you're encouraged. I hope you're inspired. I know there are times that I know I'm speaking for me, so maybe this will help. That sometimes I just want to give up and just not do this. But I had to talk myself back into this video series, so I hope you enjoy. Leave a comment below. What are your thoughts about learning to draw and doing exercises that you don't want to do? But I will tell you, oh, I'm going to pause this video and get my sketchbook. I was sketching in between, so let me show you some other things real quick. Okay, I just wanted to show you some drawings I did the other day because I was feeling just not really accomplished and I wanted to draw. So that's what spurred me on. And even though I did feel like giving up, I still went ahead and did some line drawings, and I found some references on Pinterest. And so I think this is what get me going again on this video series, is that, okay, I'm improving. This is much better than I've ever drawn before. And I also did about last month because I just felt like drawing another face. And I had a reference as well, but it doesn't look like the reference much. Let me find it here. It was this gal. I was pretty happy. So when I looked at this the other day, I was like, you know what? What are you doing? Don't give up. Look, like that's pretty good. You know, I didn't do any shading, but as far as that kind of slightly three-quarter view. So again, guys, I hope this is encouraging. I hope you don't give up if you're wanting to learn to draw, to push through those walls. I think that's what runners say, is push through the wall, because you never know. Just keep asking yourself, what if? What if I keep going? You know, what's going to happen? Let's just do it. So anyway, guys, hope that's encouraging, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.